Hello, and thank you, everybody, for joining our webinar today, which is the third in an arc that we began in January with HANA Edge, which then led to our webinar a couple weeks ago on the HANA Cloud platform, and now culminates here with BusinessObjects Cloud for BI. I'm very excited about today's webinar because it's focused on BusinessObjects Cloud, and the Digital Boardroom is a huge initiative by SAP, and likewise something Dickinson has been investing a lot of resources into. Before we get into that much, let me just start with some introductions. Today, you'll be hearing from John Korsak, a technical account executive on our team, and then you'll be hearing a small amount from Dejan Ivanov of SAP, who has a lot of experience working with customers in the marketplace as they evaluate and consider implementing cloud BI solutions. With that, I will pass this over to John.
Thank you, Spencer. So this is a quick agenda of what we're going to cover. Let's start off with the introductions. So my name is John Korsak. I'm a technical account executive for Dickinson and Associates. I have been actually worked at BusinessObjects about 15 years ago. I was a pre-sales engineer, which meant I did proof of concepts, I demoed, I implemented this software. For the last 12 years, I have been a partner of SAP, helping customers figure out the right way to acquire technology, what's the right fit for their needs, and then how to deploy that technology in such a way as to meet their analytical, data warehousing, business intelligence needs. Our focus today is going to be on the BusinessObjects Cloud platform. Before I dive into that, I thought I'd explain who Dickinson is. We are an SAP partner, an end-to-end SAP partner. We focus on SAP Business Suite, the analytics, and their cloud solutions in North America, Europe, and Asia. My group focuses on the BI and analytics, which encompasses the BusinessObjects Cloud topic we're talking about today. We have over 140 full-time SAP professionals, both technical and business, and we are headquartered in Chicago. We have offices across the country. And we are an SAP Gold partner. You know, SAP goes to market through their partner channel, and they, particularly in the general business space, which is any customer below $1 billion in revenue. We only partner with SAP, so you won't find Dickinson reselling or partnering with other vendors. This is our specialty, and we believe it's the right technology for our customers, and we believe that focus makes us a better partner for our customers that are implementing SAP. So let's dive into the topic of the day, which is the BusinessObjects Cloud platform. We're going to cover a quick overview. We're going to talk about how it integrates planning and business intelligence, how it's a single cloud platform for all users, and we're also going to talk about the digital boardroom concept as a visualization and a very exciting and innovative visualization component built on top of BusinessObjects Cloud. So what is SAP BusinessObjects Cloud and the digital boardroom? It is a new generation software as a service platform built on the HANA Cloud platform, and it does provide business intelligence, planning, and predictive capabilities all in one solution. So you don't have to have multiple servers, multiple applications, multiple different knowledge bases. It's all just a single platform with supporting all the different use cases. It is integrated, so it saves users time and reduces errors because you're not transferring information across different platforms. This is, because it's a cloud platform, it's going to reduce your cost of ownership and your speed to deployment. You don't have to provision servers. You don't have to install operating systems. You just acquire your licenses and start working. And there is also this digital boardroom concept, which is a great way to integrate multiple dashboards and really create an executive sort of cockpit, allowing the leadership or an organization to really understand and dive down into these visualizations, not just get a static view. So we're going to start off looking at an overview of the BusinessObjects Cloud and how it fits into the SAP strategy. So within the circle, we have SAP BusinessObjects Cloud, and it's a great, it's essentially seen as extending the SAP Cloud application. So SAP has S4 HANA, they have Ariba, Concur, and C4C, and SuccessFactors. All that information can now be integrated and visualized and analyzed in a single BusinessObjects Cloud environment. So rather than going to different portals and different interfaces, let's go to one place to be able to do the analysis across organization. And this doesn't just work for SAP applications. If you have Salesforce.com, if you have Google Analytics, if you have other cloud-based data sources or even on-prem data sources, BusinessObjects Cloud can be the one source for integrating all of that data and presenting it back to your users. With the BusinessObjects platform, you absolutely get reporting and analytics. But this is an example of something you might want to build, a very clean, intuitive user interface, all cloud-based, all browser-based, where users can come in and start analyzing what's important to them. It's designed to be very approachable, very easy to use. It doesn't require a lot of training, and as you can see from this visual, you can have a lot of control over the look and feel. It's not a tabular report or very restricted in terms of the visualization. It's very open, and as we get into the actual demo, I think you'll see some of the top capabilities when it comes to customizing the visualizations to meet your particular needs. As we said in one of the bullets, this is also mobile enabled. So this will meet all your users, not just your laptop users. You may have people in the field. They're not going to require special downloads. They're not going to require a separate app. They just need to open up their browser and look at the same user experience a laptop user will get, obviously without the mouse. And this platform also comes with predictive analytics. So not only do you get the traditional reporting and analytics from a BI platform, but you get the ability to dive another level deeper, understand what the key influences are that are driving your business, what causes customers to churn, what causes employees to look for a new job, and be able to predict that information and do some forecasting, easily run forecasts, and understand how that's going to, your revenue stream is going to continue or your inventory is heading for trouble. And then do predictive forecasting. All of these engines are built into the BusinessObjects Cloud platform, just another interface, something we will actually take a quick look at in the demo. And with this, what really makes it possible for users to get a very quick running start with the BusinessObjects Cloud when it comes to predictive modeling is a library of predictive models that come with the BusinessObjects Cloud suite. So out of the box, you can start analyzing data in ways that you just never had time or expertise to do in a traditional BI tool set. So it's very exciting for those customers that have always wanted to do some predictive analytics but never could afford to buy a platform or carve out enough time to figure out how they do it the right way with open source tools. All of this being very wizard-driven, very non-coding focused, and you'll see that when we get into the demo. And we also mentioned that it comes with planning and budgeting embedded. Now, I will say we're not going to get a chance to demo this today because planning and budgeting is a large demo topic. We have a link here at the bottom of the page, some great information on how the planning and budgeting in BusinessObjects Cloud works. We'll also be sending out some links to some recorded webinars we've done on the planning budgeting component itself. But planning and budgeting is really a logical fit for a cloud-based solution. You have users, managers all over, usually geographically dispersed all over geography. And we want them all to be involved in the process, but we don't want them tying up a budgeting spreadsheet or a template until they get a chance to email it back. So having it all online, cloud-based, interactive is a really logical and efficient way of doing planning and budgeting, and we're seeing a lot of customers recognizing that and moving their planning and budgeting processes to the BusinessObjects Cloud. And some of the benefits you get there are it's all in the cloud. It is real time, so as people are making changes, it automatically gets fed back. There's no, again, emailing or updating or manual processing. There's collaboration tools built in. We're allowing the users to drive the financial modeling, so it's not driven, pushed down by IT. It is governed, but we're allowing the business users to have input. There's an events console to manage the workflow and identify who's holding up the process. There's obviously advanced reporting, and because this is all based upon the HANA platform, you've got unparalleled speed and performance in the calculations and the ability to integrate this with multiple extensions in the cloud platform. So again, one platform in the BusinessObjects Cloud gives you multiple capabilities. And this just gives you an overall architectural view of how the BusinessObjects Cloud fits in. So on the far right of the screen, we have the green circle, which is the BusinessObjects Cloud And as you can see, it's built upon the HANA platform, the HANA Cloud platform. But it also integrates with the BusinessObjects on-premise. So those customers that already have invested in BusinessObjects for years can leverage BusinessObjects Cloud on top of that. They can also leverage HANA on-premise. They don't have to be HANA in the cloud. Same thing with, on the far left, S4 for HANA, you could also have traditional SAP ERP on-premise. So this isn't cloud only. This is definitely a hybrid or cloud or combination approach is welcome. So SAP is not forcing their customers to go down one path, but rather adapting to the fact that multiple customers have different needs and making sure that this solution can work with any type of customer. So we also wanted to take a minute or two to take a look at Digital Boardroom, and this is something I really can't demo during a webinar because we'd actually need to be physically in the room to see it. But this is an actual screenshot or a picture, rather, of what the Digital Boardroom looks like. It's actually integrating 3 separate dashboards on touchscreen screens that are all tied together. So an executive in a Digital Boardroom would be able to walk over to the far left, notice a trend, click on a button, and then the subsequent screens on the right would update based upon their selections, essentially giving them a drill down on the screen with a push button experience. If you ever get a chance to go to one of the SAP conferences, or maybe Sapphire or one of the larger ASAG meetings, definitely go up and get it and take a look, because they would have the Digital Boardroom set up for users to come in and take a look and interact with. It's very exciting stuff. This obviously requires some investment in hardware to set up, but for those organizations that really want to adopt a data-driven culture, if you can get them to start at the top of the organization, it forces the rest of the organization to adapt and adopt the solution, and really changes the way organizations behave. So how does the Digital Boardroom work? It's really all built upon the BusinessObjects Cloud. It's just integrated with a physical display touch screen. So it is 360 reporting without data duplication. So we're not creating multiple copies of the data. We're looking at different views of that data set. It's one reporting environment, and it's got contents from all different business areas. So finance, marketing, sales. You can answer ad hoc questions. The users can drill down, and this can all be real time. So as things change, as action is taken, you can see the effect of that action almost immediately. And it can really transform a boardroom experience. Instead of coming to a boardroom with a PowerPoint that's hours or days old, now you can actually come in with live data. Nobody has to print anything out or have the laptops with you. Everybody can be working on the same live copy, which is, again, just accelerating the performance of the business. So why are customers looking at cloud solutions? Well, first of all, it just provides peace of mind. At the end of the day, it's a server running somewhere else, but you don't have to care for that server anymore. So there's no hardware maintenance. You don't have to worry about hardware getting old, disk drives going bad, memory running out. There's also painless upgrades. No more service packs and patching and updates. All that is built into the cloud platform. So it's very easy to maintain. It reduces your headcount requirement, reduces the expertise you need in all these other areas around supporting a platform. It's also very flexible subscription pricing. You don't need to make a large upfront expenditure. You can add licenses as you need, and you only pay for what you need. So you don't have to be Nostradamus and predict exactly what you're going to need in the future. You can start off small and grow your deployment as adoption grows, because you don't have to worry about buying a huge piece of hardware. You're just subscribing to a service. And it's fast and scalable. It's very easy to get started because there's no provisioning up front. And again, you simply add resources as you need. You don't have to worry about running into a wall or figuring out how you need to move everything to a data center because you just ran out of space. All that's handled for you by the cloud solution. So it just makes sense, not just from a business intelligence or analytics perspective, but from applications in general. We're seeing the slow but steady surge of customers trying to get their infrastructure into a cloud-based solution so that they can take advantage of these benefits. So that was an overview of the BusinessObjects Cloud and some of the capabilities. What we want to do now is actually jump into a demonstration and show you some of those capabilities in a live demo. So I'm going to be logging into my BusinessObjects Cloud environment. So I like to start off with it and just logging in as a user would. You can absolutely set up single sign-on or authentication. In this case, I'm going to log in. It's just a simple browser page. I'm using Chrome here. I'm going to log in. And when I log in, it's going to take me to my landing page. And users can somewhat customize this, or organizations can customize it. Like I've added the Dickinson logo here at the bottom of the page. You can see it's got my name. It recognizes who I am. It's got some of the recent stories or reports or dashboards that I've looked at. So rather than go back and scroll through a list of dozens of different reports, it can bring up my favorites. It also gives you can put in some guidance. So here I can give the users some simple links. These are obviously generic ones, but if you wanted to create your own navigation screen and give the users the ability to jump into marketing or finance or HR, those could just be tiles right on this page. And these are configurable tiles. This is actually part of one of the reports, and it's interactive. It's not just a static report. I can actually zoom in and start analyzing this data if I need to, clicking on a data point, filtering on that data point, and then zooming back out once I'm done with the analysis. Again, this is configurable, so if you notice, I can actually grab the corner of that screen and decide how much screen space that's going to take up for me. So making it very approachable for users to create an experience that's appropriate for them, not forcing them down a non-intuitive path or something that just jars the eye. So I didn't take a lot of time customizing this because I wanted everybody to see sort of the out-of-the-box experience with slight modifications. Now let's take a look at some of the capabilities. So in the upper left, there's a simple navigation menu. And based upon the permissions that have been given to each user, they're going to have different rights. So I have the ability here to create, and I can create a story, which is really a combination of reports and dashboards. I can create a boardroom agenda, so if I have Digital Boardroom, I can create that workflow. I can create a data model. So I can pull information from multiple sources, from Ariba, from SuccessFactors, from my on-premise SQL Server database, integrate that data in BusinessObjects Cloud and present it, or connect back to a HANA model and report against that data live. So here you can do some data wrangling, data integration, and decide what data you want to report against. You can build processes, which is part of the planning and budgeting, and you can create dimensions and currencies that are going to be shared across multiple stories. It's also points of interest. For those of you who want to get into geospatial mapping, you may want to overlay different census maps or create custom groupings of territories. That's all supported here with a point of interest that can be shared again across all your stories. Now, I'm not going to create a story from scratch right now. What I want to do is take a look at an existing one. So I'm going to go to the Browse section, go to the Stories, and again, this list is usually pared down quite a bit. New users don't get bombarded with all these choices. We try to make it much cleaner and streamlined for them to find what they want. You can see stories are grouped into different sections. All of this is secured. I'm in My Stories right now. There's Public, there's Everything. There's the ones that have been shared with me by other users. You can even create templates so that you can, if somebody does create their own story, they're not doing it and creating their own sort of look and feel. They're sort of sticking to a corporate standard. I'm going to jump over to the samples first of all, and we're going to take a look at this sample story here at the bottom, just to give you an idea how this might be used. Now, I want to point out something here at the beginning. If you notice at the top, there are some options or some buttons at the top of the screen. These are some basic reporting features and functions that I may or may not use. The ability to filter, the ability to add a formula or calculation, to refresh the data, to add a comment, or to zoom in. So this is a pretty scaled down set. When we look at another story later on that has less security on it, you'll see more options available. And this is just a way of scaling up functionality based upon the maturity of your user that's looking at this report. So in this report, we're looking at sales performance. we're looking at it from 2013 to 2015. I can see a trend of my gross margin. You can see it's generally trending up over the last 3 years. That's good. We're at 28.4% margin, $825 million in revenue. 235 of that is actually margin. Below, I can see I've got 3 territories. I've got California, Nevada, and Oregon. California is well into the green. They're well above their $100 million target. And whereas Nevada and Oregon are well below their target. Maybe those targets are unrealistic, but right now I've got a problem I need to look into. So let's start analyzing this information. Let's start off in the bottom left. I can look at the gross margin percentage for each product. So not the gross margin dollars, but let's look at the percents. And California seems to have the highest gross margin in every product category, whereas Nevada has the lowest gross margin in every product category. So it's not just gross margin in terms of dollars, they're actually performance percentage-wise is worse as well. I can also look at the average gross margin per state here in another chart. If I wanted to, I could take a look over here in the bottom right and I can see how are my overall sales trending by product. So 2013, 2014, 2015, we're definitely seeing an uptick. It looks like most of that uptick is in my juices category. So let's take a look at juices. So built into this dashboard, I've actually got some simple filters that allow the users to just analyze or drill down or slice and dice the data. So here we're still looking at all our regions, but we're just looking at juice sales. And again, I can see Nevada is at 15.63% gross margin. So our total revenue for juice is much lower than the overall. As you can see, everything updates as I add these filters. There's also a date range filter. So let's see, we're not doing that well. Is Nevada getting any better? I'm looking at a 3-year period. Maybe they've made some strides. So right now we're at 15.63%. Let's just look at the last 4 quarters. Again, it refreshes my data, and we're at 15.64%. So it really hasn't gotten any better. If anything, it stayed flat. So we're not seeing an improvement on its own. Let's try to dive down and do some more analysis. So I'll jump into my analysis tab, and just like you might have in an Excel spreadsheet, you might have multiple tabs. You can have multiple tabs within each story. So here is we're trying to analyze why is Nevada's revenue so low. If you notice somebody's already come up with a solution, they put a note in here, we're discounting too much. And you can see that right on this map. Sometimes a chart or a good visualization will tell the story faster than looking at a table of numbers. So if we see here, we've got Oregon, California, and Nevada. Nevada's got the big circles, and the big circles indicate discount. So the larger the circle, the larger the discount. So you can see in Nevada, our average discount is 37%, whereas in California, where our margins are really good, our average discount is 25%. So we've got a problem with the way we're discounting our product. And maybe, in Nevada, maybe they discount the product so that they can get people into the casinos. Maybe it's a trade-off that's worth doing. But at first glance, this seems like this might be a problem. But this interface gives the user the ability to dive down and drill into that problem. And as you can see, this can be formatted. This can be made print-friendly. You can add or remove and interact with this data very easily. So I'm going to jump over to another story and show you a different example. So this is one that I've created for this webinar, which just highlights some of the different features that are available, and also shows you more of the capabilities. So with this dashboard, I have more permissions. You can see I've got more options across the top. And we'll get into some of those, not all. We don't have time to do a full tutorial, but it can give you a taste of how it really works. So right now we are looking at a dashboard that's showing me I've got 2 main products. I've got food products and drinks. You can see most of our revenue is coming from our food products. I can see how that's trended over time. I can actually see over here that by product group, which produce is our largest product group, followed closely by canned foods and deli products. We've also got a table down below, but this is, again, all interactive. So if I wanted to take a closer look at my drink product group, I could click on that, and it, again, will filter all of the other visualizations And I can restrict that if I don't want them to filter, but in this case I do. So the table changed. It's just showing me dairy beverages and alcoholic beverages. You can see our largest percentages of revenue comes from the beverages category. If I want, I can click into any one of those and filter again. So now it's just not one chart that filters, but multiple filters can be applied. And my table is showing me the latest results. So these are actually building the filters into the actual visualizations. In another view, we can take a similar sort of view and look at, again, a tree map view. So now we've got by region, central, southern, northeast, and western. I can see which products are popular in which regions. So produce is selling a lot in the central region, but in the southern region, our deli products are much more popular. Produce is a distant second. And you can see how that changes from different regions to regions. And you have the ability to see that trended down below, current year sales versus prior year. If you want, you can click on any one of these regions. So let's take a look at produce in the southern region. Why is it behind every other region where produce is the number one? Maybe we can see in which particular periods we're seeing sales. And you can see our year-to-date sales in April are actually up, but every other, that's why our sales are actually trending in the right direction. We're just not catching up to the other regions yet. It may just be regional differences. Now, sometimes you don't want to filter by using the actual charts themselves. Sometimes you want to include the filters in the page. So in this page, we've got our product groups and our product types. So right now I'm looking at all of our products. I can see my margin, which is the line, the yellow line, and the revenue. So it looks like our revenue ramped up. Looks like our margins have stayed pretty steady, but we seem to see some spikes. It looks like every Q4 we dip down, which isn't, let's take a look at that. So I can analyze this a few different ways. I can see I'm looking at all product groups. Maybe I want to go through these one at a time. Let's look at frozen foods, and let's look at canned goods. And you can combine those and start to see if there's any particular trends that we're noticing. And as you notice, when I click on a product category, it's dynamically updating the other selection list. So when it comes to frozen foods, these are all the products that fall under frozen foods. When it comes to produce, I get a different subset of products that fall under there. So it's dynamically updating all of the filters. Again, we're trying to make it easy for users to come in and find what they need. Now, you can build some really cool filters and analysis, but eventually you're going to run out of screen space. You can't put every filter in here. So that's where you might want to go up to your tool menu and start doing some of your own analysis. And this is where you can build some very good intuitive dashboards and stories. But at the point you want to give the users the ability to do some analysis outside of the box. So here I'm going to jump in and actually just add some more filters. And what this does is exposes a panel across the top that allows me to dive down and filter by any of the other data that's available for me in this particular data model. So we, again, don't have to anticipate everything perfectly. We can give the users more of a flexible ad hoc environment where they can do their own analysis. And actually, before I get into that, one thing that I wanted to show was if we take a look at frozen foods, not only do you have the ability to filter and analyze, but I can see I've still got a dip in Q4, but I haven't figured out why. I haven't figured out if it's a particular product. And this chart really doesn't allow me to see that. What it does allow me to do is if I go to the top right, I can jump into designer mode. And now I have the ability to actually edit the data that's being seen. So this actually shows me this chart structure. So I can see I've got my sales information, I've got my margin information, and I've got year and quarter. But what if I wanted to actually add a dimension and see the product type, and then I have a different line for product type? Well, let's just focus on sales, because that's where the dip is occurring. And let's add a color. And let's see for each of the different product types, let's add a separate line. And now I can see that we've definitely got an outlier. So even though every product line has a significant dip in Q4, our frozen pizzas have the largest dip in Q4. So maybe it's great because we're selling more of it than anything else, but why is our biggest products suddenly dropping down so dramatically every Q4? That type of analysis is hidden with most BI tools because you just can't slice the data the way you want to. You can't analyze it a slightly different way. This tool set gives a very intuitive and approachable way for users to come in and analyze it. And with each of these visuals, there's all kinds of options. So I can look at, if I like this one and I want to revisit this story next quarter, see if we've fixed this problem, I can pin this to my home page. I can go in and edit this report because now I'm in designer mode and all of these options have been opened up for me. I can also add a trellis. So if I wanted to see this chart for each of my different regions, it could break it out and create 4 charts, one for each region. So very powerful, very easy to use reporting capability. Again, not coding, not calculations, but using the wizards and the features built into this tool set. And one of the more popular capabilities within the BusinessObjects Cloud is its integration with the geospatial mapping capabilities. I seem to be having trouble with this particular story. Let me see if I can get you another example. Okay. So I'll try to come back to a mapping demonstration, but one thing I wanted to make sure we touched on was the predictive modeling. And I wanted to start off with a data set that I thought would make sense for most people to understand pretty easily. And this is a baseball example. So here we're looking at baseball teams, and I want to see the effect of earned runs on wins. So the bar is how many earned runs has a team given up in the course of a year, and we're looking at 2013 in this case. So we have our National League teams over here on the left, American League teams on the right. You can see Houston in 2013 gave up more runs than anybody, 767, and they had the lowest win total, 51. So you can see there's a correlation. I wouldn't call it predictive, but you can definitely see there's a relationship between this data. The teams that generally do a good job of keeping runs from getting scored score more wins. Let's take another look. If we go to the second page, we can start adding layers of analysis. So here we're looking at 24 years of history in baseball, and this is just looking at, for the whole league, earned runs, which is the blue bar, strikeouts, which is the sort of the reddish bar, and the line is the home runs. So I've got a little blue background here in 1994. There's a dip down here because that was a strike year. They didn't play as many games that year. You'd expect the numbers to be down. But I didn't want to pull it out and have people wonder why there was a missing year. But here you can see if we go to 2000, there's a spike here in home runs. That was the height of the steroid era. There was almost 5,700 home runs hit in that year. Baseball started to crack down on steroids. In 2014, that total had dropped to 4,100, almost 1,400, a 1,400 home run difference. And you can see the corollary effect is strikeouts went up in the same period. They went to an all-time high in 2014 of 37,000. If you go back to 2000, they were at 31,000, so 6,000 more strikeouts. And the blue bar is earned runs. So as home runs are going down, strikeouts are going up. Earned runs have hit their lowest level since 1995, right after the strike year. So you can see there's a little bit more of an analysis, a little bit more of a correlation. Now this is some just trending. I'm not really doing some predictive analysis or discovery yet. But I did want to show you how BusinessObjects Cloud enables that capability. So on the far left, one thing I haven't looked at yet is something called the data view. So if I click on that, now we're just diving into the raw data. And this has a couple of different purposes. One is it allows you to just quickly find a data point. So if I wanted to find the wins for an American League team, and let's say I wanted to see Baltimore, and I want to see how many wins did Baltimore have in 1960. They were 89 wins, 65 losses, and I can see that they had 48 complete games during that period. So you can just quickly add a data point. You don't have to stop here. You can actually take this and integrate it into your dashboard. Make this part of the visualizations. So sort of an interesting data point. But what I'm going to do now is take a look and let the machine do some of the discovery for me. So I've already built one here. It's called Discovery 1. And this sort of looks at pitchers and what influences wins for pitchers. We've got a lot of different metrics here. We've got the number of outs a pitcher has produced in a particular year, how many strikeouts, what their losses are, what their walks. All of these are factors that could contribute to the pitcher win total. And you can see the key influencers, how many innings they pitched, how many outs they get. So the pitchers that are on the field the longest tend to get the most wins. That means they're good enough to stay in the game. But I want to see the relationship between not just innings pitched, but other factors, and this allows me to do that. So right now I'm looking at innings pitched and home runs. So if I scroll down just a bit, we can see those pitchers that give up a few home runs, but pitch a lot of innings. So a lot of innings is going from left to the right. Home runs is low home runs at the top, a lot of home runs at the bottom. So even though these pitchers might be giving up home runs, they're still staying in the game, and they're getting more wins. Let's take a look at another factor. Maybe instead of home runs, let's look at opponent's batting average. What impact does that have on wins? So as you'd expect, the low batting average at the top, the high batting average at the bottom, those pitchers that pitch a lot of innings and don't get hit very often usually get more wins than everybody else. So some pretty obvious correlations. But you can also start looking at different, what is the impact of walks or the ability to have fly ball outs versus ground ball outs and see what the impact has on wins. What are the contributing factors? Is strikeouts that important? Well, and sure enough it is. If you get a lot of strikeouts, you should expect that you're going to get some wins. And there's some basic predictive or statistical analysis that's provided out of the box right here. As you select these different filters, it gives you some insight. So 48.9%, the win total is lower when the records have a small number of innings pitched and a small number of strikeouts. That's maybe not that insightful. But you don't have to stop here. So this is really looking at key influencers, the ability to analyze what's, again, causing customer churn, what is causing employees to attrit. Instead of having baseball statistics here, you're going to have, what is the retention cost? What is the average tenure of an employee? What is their salary compared to the market base? When was the last time they got a raise? When was their performance reviews? All of these factors can be determined, and you can actually see visually what those key influencers might be. And it doesn't stop there. You can also do some predictive analysis. And I've run a quick little predictive model here, and this is, again, looking at specific pitchers. So we've got this graphed on the bottom here in a couple different ways. But this is showing me my win totals. So for pitcher number 1, they actually had 2 wins. But based on their performance, which is they had an ERA of 2, they started 17 games, and they got 324 batters out. So I would have expected them to have 6 wins, but they only got 2. So there's a 4-win differential. So this is where the machine learning, the machine discovery, has the ability to do some predictive analysis based upon all of the data that's in this model. It's able to produce a predictive model and say these are the outliers from that predictive model and allow the user to analyze that and try to understand why they're the outliers. Go to the other extreme. Here we have a pitcher that we expected he was going to have 2 wins, but he had 10. And if you look at his statistics, his ERA was 3. Oh, it was good, but not great. But he had no starts. So it looks like game starters, your starters are generally going to get more wins and a low number of innings pitched or a low number of batters gotten out. This looks like a reliever who just happened to be in the game at the right time and got some good wins, much above the predicted total. So you can identify the outliers, you can justify those outliers and see if they make sense to you. But this is a type of analysis that's really hard for users or analysts to do. It's become very easy. You just simply jump into a new machine discovery, and all of the data that's in your model is available to you. So what are my measures that I want to look at? What affects the earned run average per pitcher? And then I can filter this data. Don't look at just a particular year, just a particular league. just a particular team and do the comparisons and try to understand why a particular person is outperforming another. And what are all the contributing factors to that? And you slowly go through and select your different criteria. And it's, again, not a coding-based engine. We're leveraging a library of statistical algorithms and models that allow us to go through here. I can just select the pictures I wanted to compare and add them to my list and create a comparison group, a baseline group, a comparison group. How do these people differ from this group? It's very approachable, very easy to get started. It does take some practice to figure out exactly how it works, but this is an extreme differentiator for those users that do go down the BusinessObjects Cloud path. They have a predictive engine that they will actually use, that they don't need a PhD to actually get some productive information or useful information out of. So I get excited about this because it's the stuff that I haven't been able to do with traditional tools, because, again, it's a question I've heard. You've never had the time to play around with it, and now you've got a tool at your fingertips that allows you to do it. It's fun. Now, I'm noticing the clock, and I wanted to make sure we had a chance to get back to our agenda. What we can do is if anybody wants to see anything in particular, we can absolutely set up follow-on sessions to dive into any one of these particular areas of interest in much more detail. But what I wanted to do now was jump back to our agenda and introduce Dan, who's going to give you a little bit of a summary for us. Dan?
Yes, hi, John, and thank you so much for that introduction there. I'm just waiting for the slide to come back on. I know it'll probably show up any moment here. But, yeah, thank you for taking us through that. I know it's pretty easy to take a lot of this stuff for granted, but, you know, a little bit about myself. I've been in the analytics space for about 5, almost 6 years now. And I was actually an analyst before that. And a lot of the stuff that we're seeing now, you know, it's, like I said, it's very easy to take for granted. It's just a couple points and clicks. And that's the beauty of this tool is it's extremely user-focused. So it's not, you know, you don't need a data scientist or anybody that, you know, knows, for example, R or is very familiar with using extremely kind of complicated statistical tools to be able to do some of this analysis. So you're really enabling your business users to get you know, that 360-degree view of their business and get that deeper kind of understanding of their data. But with, you know, on another note, I wanted to, first of all, come on this webinar just kind of to show the SAP commitment for this product. A lot of you on this webinar are probably familiar with our on-premise portfolio. SAP has been the number one, basically the world leader for a very long time in analytics. We have about 65,000 clients, so we're really leveraging that experience and taking this product to the next level. As you know, a lot of things are moving to the cloud, so SAP has committed a vast amount of resources into this product. We have about 500 developers working on this tool right now, tweaking it, taking customer feedback, and applying that basically on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So what that allows you to do is, you know, have your analytics basically exactly how you want it, and it's summarized very well here. It's all users, all devices, either on cloud or on-premise, or both. You know, we do have a lot of clients that are choosing to do that. Another thing that is worth noting here is the supercharged performance of this tool, and it really is that the tool was designed to, it was actually built to run on our market-leading in-memory data engine called HANA. So this tool is actually designed and optimized for our HANA Cloud platform, and it definitely leverages that. So, you know, you can see that in the demonstration here, there was very, very little lag times, and everything is basically instantaneous. So with that, I also wanted to note that I've been working specifically with Dickinson & Associates for about 8 or so months now, and I don't have enough good things to say about them. You know, they bring a lot of experience on every single call I've been on, and they definitely have kind of championed this new solution for us. So, again, John, thank you so much for taking us through it, and I will turn it back over to you. And again, everyone on the phone, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thanks, Dan. So Spencer, if there's any questions now, or if anybody want to ask a question, now would be a good time.
Sure. Thank you, John and Dan. Looks like we do have a few questions here. So we'll start with the first one. How does a BusinessObjects Cloud implementation differ from an on-premise one in terms of internal resources and the time required?
It differs quite a bit. You still need to figure out how your content is going to be organized and what your groups and users are going to be, but the configuration that stand up of the environment is much simpler. There really is no configuration and stand up of the environment. In a traditional on-premise world, you have to figure out what the right server is, you have to size it out properly, and you have to install it, and you have to get your IT team to set up firewalls and servers and network access. And that provisioning process often takes months, and it's not an inexpensive process, and that assumes everything gets done perfectly. If something is done incorrectly in that configuration process, your performance of your BI environment may suffer. So with the BusinessObjects Cloud, it's really just how many users do you need, how much data you're going to be looking at, and then you make your license acquisition and you can get started right away. Then you're really just connecting to your data sources and building content. So the time to value is much shorter.
That's great. Okay. Now, how long does it typically take to train the average user to become familiar with the tool?
I mean, with any of these tools, there's different user roles. So there is a component here where you actually create data models. There's a component here where you can do planning and budgeting templates. Not every user needs to be trained in those roles, and those will require a little bit of training. But because this is all a cloud-based platform, it's designed, as Dan said, to take advantage of those decades of experience as a business intelligence vendor, to be easy to use, to be approachable. SAP has learned some lessons. They have some amazing on-premise tools with amazing functionality that very few users ever use. And this tool is much more focused on what's practical and what's approachable. Because at the end of the day, if users aren't adopting and using the solution, it doesn't matter how powerful or capable it is. It really needs to be something that is used day in and day out by our organization, making better business decisions based upon data, not gut feel. So the time it takes to train is much shorter because of that development mindset at the very beginning, which is let's make sure we get people in there using this. But that being said, there are going to be different roles with different training requirements.
Okay. And now, because it's cloud, people typically have concerns about security. So the next question is, how secure is my data?
Well, I know SAP uses BusinessObjects Cloud itself, and I don't think they would take a chance with their own data. So at the end of the day, it's just, when I look at cloud platforms, it's really just a server that is in somebody else's network or somebody else's data center, if you will. You shouldn't have to worry about the maintenance and everything else. It's, in our experience, just as secure as on-premise solutions, and in most cases, more secure because there is such scrutiny on these cloud-based solutions that vendors that offer a software as a service solution are much more stringent and careful than on-premise network administrators sometimes are, who tend to get careless occasionally. So it has all the proper standards and certifications that you'd expect, and you see enterprise-class multi-billion-dollar customers beyond SAP themselves adopting this solution. I'm sure that they would have, I know they have put SAP through the paces when it comes to security, and they've answered all their questions properly.
Perfect. The next question is about licensing. How is BusinessObjects Cloud licensed per user, by data source, or functionality?
It's just user licensing. It's a per user per month, and it is by function. So if you're just an analytics user, you just need the base license. If you wanted to do predictive, there is a slight upcharge. I think it's $50 more a month for those users that want to use that predictive capability. And then if you are going to be involved in that planning and budgeting process, there's an additional upcharge on top of those users that are part of the planning and budgeting process, which is usually a small subset of the overall. but it's just per user per month. Again, you can scale up or scale down as you need to very easily. So you don't have to predict perfectly how many users are going to be using which function. Just add them as you need them.
Sounds pretty simple. The last question that I have is, will it work on top of my on-premise business objects?
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be able to leverage if you have a business objects deployment and you're using universes, for example. Universes are a data source, so you don't have to remodel the data. You can just connect directly to them in place and start writing Business Objects Cloud reports and content on top of that data source. If you have HANA on-premise or in the cloud, you can connect directly to them and start writing against those data sources. So you can absolutely leverage your existing investments in that metadata and in that database. Now, the reports themselves, you're going to rebuild new reports and new visualizations to take advantage of the features in the Business Objects Cloud and the user interface that it provides. So you're not going to move your CRISP reports, for example, up to the Business Objects Cloud. Those are going to stay where they are. But you can leverage and view the data and give the users that need a different user experience, that don't want to interact with the data in a CRISP experience, can now leverage the same data, but now they can do it with a tool that they want to use.
Great. Well, that looks like that wraps things up. So I just want to thank everyone for attending. And if any reason you missed part of this presentation, keep an eye out for a follow-up email we'll be sending out tomorrow with a link to the full recording on our YouTube channel, where you can also find recordings of past webinars that we've done, and quite a few canned demos are posted out there as well. So thank you, everyone, and have a good day.